dumb.
This is Chicago's Morning Answer.
I'm as mad as hell, and I'm not going to take this anymore.
On AM 560. The Answer.
Good morning, Dan and Amy. So, the dumbest man on television.
Okay, who?
I think it's the dumbest person on television, Don Lemon.
Hey, easy on my girlfriend.
Yeah.
Okay?
Formerly, your fungible Magpie network affiliate reporter in Chicago. The TMZ caught up with him at LAX, and they asked him about, should we have more women running for president? Should we have a woman president because they're less likely to be embroiled in scandal than men? And here's what Don Lemon said.
Do you think at this stage women are safer bets, for running for president just because they're less likely, probably, to have this sort of terrible stuff in their past?
Women are the smartest of the sexes and they always have been. And we would be a whole lot better off if women were running more things in this country.
Hey.
And I mean that.
Yeah, he means it. He's not just joking around.
Well, if he said anything else but that, then he'd be doomed.
Then he'd be an adult.
Career.
Then he'd be an adult. We're literally right now with this, is it anything girls can do, boys can do better, or anything boys can do, girls can do better? Are we in kindergarten? Are we like some bad dad humor at the dinner table? That's what you get from these people on cable news shows. It's pathetic. Oh, by the way, as is often observed, the whole idea, women ruled the world, there'd be no war, except if you look at the annals of female presidents, prime ministers, political leaders. There's a high incidence of actually war because it turns out that the human condition is complicated to govern whether it's men or women. So how about just like having a teachable moment to the adult? I don't know. How about we focus on maybe character as something we look at when it comes to our political leaders, as opposed to pretending that character doesn't matter. It's just the positions you take. It's just the flag you're going to advance. And somebody's personal conduct doesn't matter as it pertains to their public duties. How about we discard that shibboleth and then we get better class of men and women in public office and in positions of authority? What about that? But that's an adult answer. Don Lemon and most of his cable news watchers aren't prepared for that. And it's how you get sort of the telegenic cultural Marxist takeover with AOC and her ilk. For more on this topic, we're pleased to be joined by Mike Rectenwald. He's a former NYU professor, and he's the author of Springtime for Snowflakes, Social Justice and Its Postmodern Parentage, and also the upcoming book, Google Archipelago. This guy, the digital gulag and the simulation of freedom. Boy, I got to get this guy's headline writer. This is like New York Post quality. First, he does sort of a take on Mel Brooks, and then he does a take on Alexander Solzhenitsyn. What range? Mike Rectenwald, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having me. I'm happy to be here.
So, a Springtime for Snowflakes, Social Justice and Postmodern Parentage, that seems to be particularly timely given, for example, the GND that was rolled out by AOC last weekend. Yeah. Does something like that surprise you, given the trajectory of college of discourse on college campuses for, say, the past 30 years?
No, it's totally par for the course because, first of all, it has no basis in any scientific, economic theory. It's completely insane in terms of what it would do to the economy. It would utterly destroy it. And, it's utterly socialist because, just the indoctrination that's happening in colleges and universities is so intense and extreme and completely unnoticed, for so long.
But here's the problem, it seems to me, though, in terms of like when does the pendulum swing, that question that people that actually believe in academic freedom and robust intellectual discussion hope for. The problem is the other side is being underwritten by us. So, for example, at Berkeley, campusreform.org had a story over the weekend, diversity-focused employees, that term in and of itself, diversity-focused employees cost more than $2.3 million annually, according to 2017 salary records at Berkeley, and that's everywhere. So how do we shift the paradigm when we're underwriting the other side's paradigm?
This is happening, all over the country, as you said, there's this huge administrative glut in the first place, and then on top of it, they put this diversity, equity, and inclusion glut of administrators that are costing millions of dollars, and all making, some of them upwards of $1 million a year. And then, of course, you have a whole slew of them making $250,000 a year. There's most universities, major ones. It has to be attacked by virtue of this. I've been trying to say this for a while. First of all, social justice ideology is a religion, and it is being indoctrinated. It is being used as a form of official doctrine in these universities and colleges all over the country. It has to be attacked at that level because we have to say, listen, this is actually an infringement of religious freedom because you are instituting an official religious creed in public institutions throughout the entire United States. This way we use the separation clause to get it out of there, to get it off the parapet. And, people can believe whatever they want, religious freedom, but it shouldn't be an official doctrine. If you want to have a social justice university, you have to declare it outright. That would have to be private. That's how I would attack it.
Well, did you ever think that the Democratic Party would go so left and be this progressive?
No, I didn't. Actually, I used to be a leftist myself, and I wish they would. And now they have, and I don't like it at all. I'm surprised it's happening, and I never thought they would ever go this far left. No.
Well, so
did not see this coming.
Well, then, so is it up to individuals like you and Brett Weinstein and Jonathan Haidt and Mark Lilla? Is it up to you guys that are sort of center left or used to be center left and understand the ins and outs of academia to reverse the tide?
Yeah, I mean, it's going to take defectors from the left, first of all, like myself, who know what's going on, exactly how these people think, what the thinking is that got to this point. You're calling it cultural Marxism. I think it's very accurate. It is a form of Marxism put onto the cultural level. Instead of class being the issue, you have identity, and everything is about identity, as you were talking about before. And there's this ranking on the basis of identity. The lower you are, supposedly, in this hierarchy of subordination, the higher you are on the social justice hierarchy, because they want to invert the entire thing. That's what the whole thing is about. It's an inversion game. Take the hierarchy that they think exists, flip it. That's why you have constant denigration of men, especially white men, because they deem those people to be the highest on the hierarchy, and you have a constant adulation of those who are other. It's cultural Marxism. A very good way of describing it.
And so then layer on the topic of your forthcoming book, Google Archipelago, the Big Five: yes. Google, Amazon, Microsoft, Apple, Facebook, throw in Twitter, and overlay that and the ubiquitousness of these companies and their centrality in our lives, coming from the same perspective as the college professor.
They are. This is just amazing to me. And I'm calling this corporate leftism. What I see here is that leftism has become adopted by, of course, big digital, as you can see, is not only from their internal culture, but their procedures, their policies, and the ways they treat the positions outside of their culture. Their bias, their complete bias, and of course the way that they treat anybody but leftists, and the way they've treated people other than leftists at their own headquarters. Like at Google, where James Damore was fired for saying there was a difference between men and women, and that might affect their choices of profession. I mean, this is pervasive. So I'm saying that this is actually structured into the corporate ideology. This corporate ideology is structured into their entire program, and I'm calling it corporate leftism. And I'm referring to the Google. I'm calling it Google Archipelago because it does have a leftist sort of authoritarianism, just like the Gulag Archipelago in the Soviet Union. It's a leftist authoritarianism.
And since Solzhenitsyn's not around to write it, I'm glad that you did. He is Mike Rectenwald, retired NYU professor. 2 books, Springtime for Snowflakes, and the upcoming book, Google, keep saying the same thing. It's becoming a synonym, as he points out, Google Archipelago. Mike, thanks so much for joining us. Good luck with the books.
Thanks so much. My pleasure.
And he joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.
If you're talking about it, Dan and Amy are talking about it. It's Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560. The Answer.